In sports, the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story, but Netflix does. Stories about dads who happen to be world-class quarterbacks and a battle for the heart, soul, and direction of the multi-billion-dollar business of F1. Whether you're a diehard fan or you're brand new, Netflix has the stories for every type of fan. You can watch these incredible sports stories like Quarterback, F1 Drive to Survive, Untold, and many more now on Netflix.
Welcome to the Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire podcast. Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Westerer is Besterer podcast from Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire. Joining me, Lee G, as always, is Big M. How are we, Mart?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. How are you?
Yes, I'm very good. Big news this week. Big news. Martyn did his first interview all on his own this week.
Oh, yes. I popped my interview cherry, as I'd say. And it was a very daunting challenge, I will say that at the least.
Well, scary guy to interview, isn't he? Scary guy to interview.
Oh, I know. He's like 9'12", 300 stone. Oh, he was a beast, man.
Well, you'll be hearing from Martyn when he interviews Aled. Aled Waters, our Pembrokeshire man of every position and every coaching position seems to have a connection with Aled at the minute. But we'll have a little listen to that later. But Martyn survived. Martyn got through it.
I'm still alive.
Still alive. So let's crack on with some rugby then, and let's talk about the Scarlets game against Munster last Friday night. What did you feel before the game? Let's start with that one. What were the expectations going into that game?
Anyone who listened to the pod last week will know I was extremely optimistic. You know, I was bouncing. I was expecting us to win that game and win it well. So, you know, what ended up being a tale of two halves. It was a really good watch and a really bad watch at the same time.
What do you mean?
You know, just seeing how far our defence has come over the last few months, to watch that first half and you're going, okay, 5 tries is terrible. You know, anyone concedes 5 tries in the first half, they should probably be taken out back and, you know, shotgun to the back of the head. But you watch it back and you go, okay, you got that knock-on try, which they somehow give, which I'll never understand.
And didn't even take a look at it and go, did I miss something there? Where everybody else in the stadium stopped, including the scrum half that knocked it on. Everybody else stopped and went, that's a knock-on. Everybody apart from the referee.
It's like, you could hear him just after the conversion was kicked, saying into the mic, it's not clear and obvious. You know, and I don't know if that was the TMO to the ref or the ref to the TMO, but they just didn't get looked at. You know, and reviewing the tries, you know, there were 3 very, very soft tries that, you know, we shouldn't have been conceding. And, you know, you take that, okay, I know it's a fantasy world because everyone gives a soft try here and there. But, you know, you take that knock-on try in the first half, you take one of the soft tries out of it. Yes, it's 21-7, but it's still a game at that point.
Yeah.
But, and I know the end result. It was a game.
It was a hell of a game,
I want to know what happened in that changing room. I really want to know, because something switched. Though it just felt as though that game, we did turn up, but it was as though we didn't expect what they were going to throw at us.
Yeah.
And so we came in thinking, we beat the Bulls. We're on top form. We threw 6 tries in over Edinburgh. We're going to do this. And then the standard that they came out at was like, okay, we've underestimated this a little bit.
I think you could see it from the first couple of plays where in the Bulls and Edinburgh and all the other games, you know, defensively, we've been, our line speed has been quite fast, and we've been taking them on the gain line or behind the gain line, and they haven't been gaining yards. And Munster were beyond the gain line and gaining yards right from that first, those first 2 or 3 phases, and we just never got close to that ball. We did not look like disrupting any of their rucks. We didn't disrupt anything defensively. It was a strong defense, because they weren't breaking us on first and second phase. They were breaking us on 8th and 9th phase. Whereas you look back at, even at the start of the season, we were being broken on 3rd, 4th, 5th. So, we were holding out a lot better, but they were just creeping forward and creeping forward and creeping forward and gaining momentum. And for me, the difference between the two halves was actually in the second half, we just hit them harder. They weren't gaining anything off contact. Wherever that contact line was, they weren't then coming forward. So the momentum was going back the other way, and it started to swing. And you could kind of see it in their faces, where they were still trying to play the game they were in the first. In the first half, Munster were superb because every pass stuck. I think they had 2 handling errors in the entire first half, and they were just on fire that first half. But we never really gave them anything to go back at. In the second half, I thought we were outstanding. I really did. Defence and attack, everything just kind of clicked, and we rattled them. We really, really rattled them. But so the bit that annoyed me was Sam Lousey's penalty that led to one of their tries, where he was called for not releasing the player on the floor. And Lousey's 6'6". That guy's 5'10". He had him around the chest and he lifted him off the floor. The guy was bending his knee, trying to sink to the floor, and Lousey just had him in a bear hug. And he was going, and he asked the referee, he said, "Can you review that?" Because he was nowhere near the floor. And he just went, "No penalty, corner, line out, ruck, try." And so it's frustrating, but so much. I think we reacted to it better than we did at the start. If that was the start of the season, we would have been giving away reds and yellows, and we'd have been putting ourselves under pressure, and we didn't. We stood and fought, and that was a difference for me.
Yeah, if that was the start of the season, that would have been a record scoreline.
Yeah,
no doubt whatsoever. But let's look at the positives. We put 6 scores on Munster in Limerick. Now, I know we've put 6 scores on Munster before, but that was in Pro 12 final.
Yeah.
And that was one of the best attacking performances we've had. And I'll be honest, this one wasn't too far off that, because we left a few tries out there. I mean, I think it was something like 72, 73 minutes when Johnny Williams made that break, and instead of giving the soft ball to Sean Evans next to him, he bolted it over into Wycherley's hands.
Yeah.
I think that was down to match fitness, his first game back. I think if that's 2-3 games in, he gives that short pass, and we've got 5-6 minutes to get our final score. So we know that we left more points out there, as well as scoring 6 tries. And realistically, we had 2, maybe 3 attacks in the first half. So we're talking 6 tries over 40 minutes of rugby. That's incredible.
Yeah. And it shows, we were talking last week about we needed a test to see where we were, to see how far we've come from the start of the season. And I think that kind of told us. Certainly the second half showed us where we can be. I think the first half showed us that we've still got some work to do in certain places, just in terms of decision making. I think is part of it. And in the second half, we stood and fought, and we didn't in the first half. We tackled, and we tackled hard, and we went through the motions of defence, but there was a lack of aggression in that first half. And when you're dealing with teams at the top of the table, that's what happens. If you're not going to match them toe to toe, then they're going to put 6 tries on you. And in the second half, Munster didn't have an answer to our attack. And that's what happened to them. So I was quite pleased in the sense of, was that a test for us? Yes, it was. It was a really good test. I thought we should have probably won that with a couple of iffy decisions. And even with the iffy decisions, we still should have pulled the draw out in that last minute. What Sebastian was thinking in that last ruck. I started that game, right? And I was in a really good mood. And then by about 15, 20 minutes in, I was like, I was checking Twitter and the dogs were having a cuddle and all sorts of stuff. With 5 minutes to go, the wife and the daughter were watching television upstairs because they couldn't take me shouting anymore. The dogs were hiding behind the sofa. I couldn't take it. I was literally screaming at the television and looking around for somebody to agree with me. It was nobody there, So, but that's the kind of game you, as a fan, as a supporter, that's what you want. You want to see those kind of games, don't you?
Yeah, it's like one of the Scarlet groups I'm in, and obviously constantly messing. We're losing by here. Another score, another heavy score. There's me at half time. Be optimistic. It's our turn to attack in the second half. And I was like, yes, we did. I was so happy when, that came back, and someone paused at the end of the game. Oh, well, you all saying half time. I was like, whoa. I was being positive here. I was saying we can still do this. Yeah. And thank God we did. So I would have looked the right tool.
Well, I did say to someone at halftime, I said, we have come back from deficits like this in the past, and I have no evidence of that at all. It was more kind of blind optimism than it was, have we come back from a 30-odd point deficit in the past. But yeah, it was certainly a game that I can't say it's going to live in the memory because there was so much happened in that game. Was it 13 tries in that game? And I can't remember hardly any of them. There was too much to remember. But it was certainly a game that I think everybody I've spoken to that has watched that game, whether they're a supporter or not, everyone that watched that game enjoyed that game. It was a really, really good game to watch. So, who were your players to pick out from that game then? Who did you like?
Who did we like? Who did I like? I mean, the obvious one everyone's going to say is Johnny Williams because his first game back, he put a hell of a performance. But for me, Sam Costello was the standout for me in that game. His kicking accuracy, goal kicking was 100% superb. I mean, just the first he put in was touchline, and it didn't stop. His tackling, his work as a defensive 10 is unbelievable. He is the best defensive Welsh 10 at the minute. He tackles everything. He hits them hard. He doesn't. Okay, some of the bigger boys come at him. He might go back a yard or two, but he doesn't go back far.
And do you know what? I quite like him to stay out the way, though. That's how outside halves get injured and get kind of put out of it. Because I'd quite like him to go, I'm just going to leave the big boys to the back row. I'm going to leave the back row, tackle all these big boys, and I'm going to sit over here and do my hair and makeup. And when they give me the ball, I'll be in a really good position to run forward. That's what I want from him. He gives me a heart attack every time he goes in for a tackle. Honestly, he does.
Oh, but his technique is brilliant. Fair play to the boy. He's constantly low. Head is always in the right position. That's the one you got to look out for more than anything else. And the fact of the matter is, once we managed to get our ball, he orchestrated a lot of that attack, and it was just so lovely to watch. I mean, if Dan Jones or even Rhys Patchell was in that shirt in that game, okay, I don't think Dan Jones is quite as capable in attacking sense. Kicking, definitely. But, Patchell's head would have dropped before half-time, and we would never have had a chance.
And I think we were talking at the start of the season when Patchell was out injured and Costello was thrown in, and we said, this is the season that he really needs to to break through. He really needs to make that shirt his own. And you got to be fair to the guy, he absolutely has, you know. Other than the yellow cards and his first yellow card, yeah, fair enough. You can accept that. His second yellow card, the one in the air, iffy at best. 99% of those wouldn't get given. So, even from that point of view, he's had a cracking season, So yeah, I think Johnny Williams is top of the meters made. I'm not sure if it's round 15 or for the URC as a whole this season, but he's definitely rocketed right up the charts. And the guy was rock solid, And when you got Costello inside him, and then you've got Johnny Williams, you're starting to build a strong backline. You then throw in Joe Roberts outside him, and you're starting to think, well, hang on, that's three really, really strong players there. So what's his name? Johan Nicholas moving to fullback, and he came top of defenders beating and offloads. So you start to look at it and you go, actually, there's quite a settled kind of defensive line there. Then you've got Eddie James ready to come through as well, so you've got cover in that back line. So yeah, that from a long-term point of view, that's looking really good, I tell you what I was going to ask you, Combia, where has he disappeared to again?
They said he was unavailable. I can't remember if they said he was injured or if he picked up a knock or another illness. But hopefully it's just a one-off. I think I saw on the Scarlet's website that him and Kieran Hardy were doing some commercial stuff, taking photos this week. So right. It must be just a minor injury, because I didn't look as though I looked at him and thinking, where's the strap in, where's the protective gear, and I couldn't see anything. So hopefully it's just a minor niggle, maybe a strain or something like that.
Well, when you add him into the back line, and then you look at it and you go, actually, that's quite a young back line. Dane Blacker at 9. That's a young backline that's going to take us forward for quite a few seasons now.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that, and there is a fair bit of talent coming in behind as well. I mean, we've talked about the scrum half situation. We know there's a good few young 10s coming through, and we've seen Eddie James, what he can do already, and he's literally had 15-20 minutes. And we've also got Callum Williams, who's going to be due back any time now from that pretty horrific injury he had on the Wales Sevens tour. And, if you're getting picked for Wales Sevens when you're a winger, then, you're going to have a bit of pace out you. So it's going to be good to see what he can do in the 15s game.
Yeah, definitely. So anybody else that stood out for you? Anybody in the forwards that stood out for you as well?
Matthias has been constantly standing out for me. I mean, that boy is brilliant, as Luke said, for what he's like 23, 24 years old. And he's very much in the modern day prop mold. He's been the best and strong. He's not that, I don't like saying this, but he's not that more rotund sort of player like Sebastian is. He's more bulk muscle than he is just size.
Yeah.
And what I've been seeing more from him is his carrying is becoming stronger and stronger, which, it's only beneficial, and it's something you need now if you want to play at the top end of the table. You need your props to be big carriers and work in the defence. I know he was, a little bit guilty for following the 9 for one of their tries, but at the same time, he's still a kid as in terms of a prop. And, as much as I hate losing boys to Team Wales, I can't imagine it being too much longer, especially knowing Wyn Jones and Gareth Thomas, they're not going to be around for the next World Cup cycle.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to start bringing through the next set of props, and with just Rhys Carey as the only really cat loose head that's in that sort of age range at the minute, I can only see it as a logical step for Matthias to be taken up next. I hope it's not for a while, because he is just outstanding for us. But he's a player.
But then in the front row as well, you've got Harry O'Connor that's got to be starting to push through. Certainly next season, you'd expect Harry O'Connor to be sharing some of the front row duties with some of the older boys as well, and just kind of putting his hand up. So I think when you look at the team that we're building, there is a fair bit of youth coming through, and then you've got the likes of Fifita and Lousy. Obviously, this season we've got Callum Afoni, but there's green shoots of something coming through, isn't there? There's lots of. I tell you, who's good was Sean Evans again at hooker. I mean, for me, I absolutely, I didn't rate him at the start of the season. I'll be honest. I didn't think that he was going to make it through the season. I mean, wow, what a turnaround! The guy's outstanding.
Yeah, I mean, it's always an issue when you convert from a flanker into a front row forward, and him coming as an open side into a hooker. They are very similar positions in certain things, but you're talking in terms of scrummaging. He's a very small hooker, but what he has started to offer, he's always offered this, but what he started to offer alongside that sort of scrummaging prowess now is his jackling, and he's always been one to disturb rucks. And he might not get as many turnovers, but he turns a 2-second ruck into a 4-second ruck.
Yeah.
And that sort of work is you can't compare it with, because giving yourself 2 seconds is massive in terms of reorganizing your defense. Yeah. I know if he's doing that every 3 or 4 phases, then you're worth your weight in gold.
And I think we're going to continue. I think the concern is second rows. Who's going to come through? And realistically, we're not going to hold on to Fifita and Lousy for a long term. We're just not going to be able to afford both of them, or potentially either of them, for the long term. Not unless somebody finds a pot of gold buried under Parker Scarlets. Yeah. So who will we developing to bring through to replace them? I think that's the only area at the minute. I think back row we got covered, front row I think we got covered, but those two are so influential about the way we play, a bit like Tad Byrne and the Scottish guy played number 8, Barkley. Yeah. Those two and Cubby, we basically built our game around, what they did in rucks. And our game right now is built around what those two do. So what happens when they go? That's my only concern about our future now, really.
Yeah, well, I see Fifita as a blindside moving forward. I think, look, he's a brilliant player, but when you put him and Sam Lousy in the boiler room, it's quite a lightweight second row pairing. So, there's not quite as much stock and power in the scrum. So, Fifita is going to be playing 6. I can see him playing a lot more 6 than I can only imagine him going into second row for emergencies from next season, much better week on week, which is brilliant. I think Jack Price has had a lot of little niggles this season, which is probably why we haven't seen as much of him. He's another one that's, he's a year younger than Morgan Jones, and he is one to keep an eye out for. when finally there's that run in the team. And then I think behind them we've got Caleb Salmon, a boy who is a lock six type of player. And from what I'm hearing, we are looking to sign another second row, a foreign second row. So I'm expecting a big bulky player by there. And I'm also hearing rumours that we are picking up Johnny Green off of Harlequins from the Wales 20s.
Cool. Well, that'll be it certainly kind of gives a bit of reassurance for what's happening in that second row, because I say that's when you look at what we've got there. You've got Tupelotu covering the back row. You've got Josh McLeod. You've got Dan Davis, who's just on fire at the minute. We're starting to build a strong squad, and that second row kind of place is the only place that you look at and you go, yeah, if we lose those two, we are just so reliant on what they do, and particularly, and I think the bit that people just haven't really picked up on at the minute, for Fifita in the line out, on opposition line out, he does just seem to, it's either disrupted or it's stolen, or they're not even getting comfortable line out ball now, and I think it just adds into that kind of, it's one of those bits that you don't really see much unless he steals it clean and all that kind of stuff. You don't really see it, but the amount of disruption that he puts into lineouts, even when he's not stealing, is massively underestimated. So yeah.
The dark arts, the unseen work, the things that get you properly rated as players by pundits and coaches alike.
Yeah. So was there anybody there that you thought had a bit of an iffy game? Not that we're looking for bad things, but is there anybody there you thought, oof?
I mean, I thought Blacker struggled a little bit, but I think that any number 9 would have struggled against that, that Munster pack in the first half. And he didn't really have much of an opportunity in the second to put it right, although, he was very much part of the only positives coming out of our attacking game in the first half with, his quick ball. Who else? I mean, I didn't think Sebastian covered himself in glory when he came on. I thought he was a little bit soft and a little bit reckless in some of the things he was. I'm not reckless as in safety, as in going for balls when you clearly know you're offside or you're the second man.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can't really pinpoint anyone.
I thought Tom Rogers was probably trying a bit too hard. He's been out for such a long time with injuries. His first game back, and you're in the middle of, possibly playing for a contract to stay as a professional player. So you could see he was trying to make himself busy. He was trying to make an impact in a game, but it just felt like he was trying too hard. Do you know what I mean? And making mistakes.
I get what you're saying, but it is his first game back. Yeah. I think he's wanting to make up for lost time. And realistically, I don't see his future at wing. I see him as a fullback. So on the topic of fullbacks, McNichol went off really early, and
it looked nasty as well.
It really didn't look healthy at all. I'm hoping it's nothing major. I don't think anyone is going to hope that it's something major. I mean, that'd just be cruel. But for someone who is main target is to play for Wales at the World Cup, and he's been playing incredibly well, and I think he can't count himself unlucky that he hasn't been even involved in any of the last few squads. I'm thinking that dream is gone. I really am just looking back at it, and no one really reporting anything yet. So just the fact that hasn't happened is making me thinking he's got to go and see a specialist to really analyse what the damage is. So I'm not looking hopeful for him, unfortunately.
Yeah, it looked like he twisted his knee or he twisted his ankle or something got caught underneath him and he kind of went over the top, and it just, whichever way you looked at it, it just didn't look nice. But he walked off the pitch, he hobbled off the pitch, which he is a bonus, I suppose. But yeah, you got to feel for the guy, because every time he gets close, he just seems to pick up something that's enough to knock him out of the side for just long enough for somebody else to come in. Do you know what I mean? In the Welsh side.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I know we always say, "Oh, they walked off the pitch. That's brilliant," but I've seen boys walk off pitches with broken legs and not realise it. And I wish I could say I'm joking. I really wish I could say I'm joking, but I've seen boys just walk off the pitch, with broken bones and stuff, like in their legs or their ankles. Like, oh, it's just a niggle, it just hurts a little bit, and then oh crap, So it's not a simple case of he walked off, he'll be fine, But I am really hopeful that for all the things that we're saying and all the things that everybody has seen with him on that incident on the pitch, I really hope it's just a case of maybe 1 or 2 weeks, and maybe he can come back for if it's nothing, he'll be here for the Sharks game. If it's a little bit more, maybe he can be for the Brive game and the potential Bristol or Clermont game.
Yeah, give him a magic sponge. That's what he needs. The magic sponge solves everything, mate. It is indeed magic. I had the magic sponge once when I did something to my finger, and when your finger gets pulled back and you're spraying, and I couldn't close my hand. Yeah, so I'm sitting there and I can't grip a ball because I can't close my hand. I've kind of pulled something back and I felt something go ting. And my physio at the time, bearing in mind it's just 25 years ago, my physio at the time dunked the sponge in the bucket, gave me a wash round the face, and went, "There you go, you're okay." That's my hand. It's my right hand that I've injured. Nothing to do with my face and whether my face is clean. It was genuinely, I've damaged my hand. Here you go, splash. Give yourself a magic sponge. You'll be fine. It's more of that we need.
Wake up, boy. It's just a hand. Close it.
Yeah, yeah. Just catch the ball with your left hand. So. There's no official game to look forward to this week, no league game, but we have got the game against Saracens away, which I know I've seen a lot of people are kind of treating as a bit of a fun game, bit of a day trip up the M4. I know I've got friends and family up in London that are looking forward to it. They're going to go and watch the game as well, because they don't often get to see the Scarlets up there. So what do you make of this game? Do we try and build the momentum? Do we try and keep the momentum going and throw some of the big boys in? Or do we give people a bit of a run out and save them? How would you play it?
I think it's very much a 50-50 on both. The boys who've had a heavy workload, give them the time off, but at the same time, the likes of Tom Rogers, Joe Roberts, Johnny Williams, you've got to keep them playing. They haven't had massive amounts of game time, and we have to remember that we have literally just had 3 of the last 5 weeks off anyway. So these boys should be relatively fresh. It's just a chance for the boys with the heavier workloads to maybe drop down a little bit, maybe, come off the bench for 20-30 minutes for a run out. I wouldn't want to change more than 8 or 9 players, if I'm totally honest. So maybe it's just a case of swapping the bench completely out and then having a look at, who's likely to play a part in the run in the tail end of the season, the last handful of games, and then maybe chuck them into it.
I'd like to see people like Harry O'Connor, but if he's fit, I'd like to see him having a run out. Certainly Taylor Davis at hooker. we'll talk about some of the second rows. So maybe somebody like Caleb having a run in the second row, or some of the Price boys having a run. I'm just really, I'd like to see you and Shenton. I would like to see you and Shenton, because he's got a hell of a reputation. I just haven't seen him. So it's players like that I think we'd like to see. Well, I would anyway.
Yeah, and I completely forgot Griff Evans in the second row as well. He's another one that we picked up early on in the season that's supposed to have a lot of promise. But yeah, there's a lot of boys who could feature, and there'd be no issues with them featuring if they did come on, because we are a squad. I mean, I just hope that this game isn't used as a sort of last lap game, as in the boys who are not being offered contracts are just told, okay, go have one last run out in the shirt. I think that defeats the point of having a friendly. Well, I say it's a friendly. It's going to be a competitive game regardless. In this, this slot, this used to be the Anglo-Welsh slots. So, it is going to be, your 30, 33 man match day squad that you travel with, that you train with on the day of the match. They are the ones coming in. So we could even see the likes of Lozana come back in, because we know what the injury record of our back rows are like. So it'd be good to keep everyone on their toes.
Yeah, because after this game, I don't think we've got a game the following week. We haven't got a friendly or anything like that, and then we're back to the Sharks the week after that, isn't it? And then that Sharks game is our last home game for this season. So,
home league game,
yeah, sorry, yeah. So I wonder when they do the end of season presentation bits, and it seems too early in the season. Well, you look at Dragons and Cardiff have just played their last home game this season. Absolutely ridiculous.
It's unreal. I mean, I really didn't know that until I was watching the games and they said that it's the last home league game for them, and I was just thinking, Jesus, we played 5 of the first 7 games at home. I thought our home games were going to dry up a lot sooner than theirs. But I think Cardiff have got the positive of having a knockout game at home against Sale in a few weeks' time, so they have got that extra home game. From some of the people I've been talking with, the logical thing is that all leavers will be announced before the Sharks. Whether or not that happens at the minute with the current state, with all the goings on, with the potential mergers and more money in the pot, if that happens, it's still really up in the air. I think the main thing that needs to happen is we need, or at least the clubs, the 4 regions, they need to know, are they 4 regions or are they 3 regions in Ealing, before they can sort of properly announce who is leaving.
Yeah, and it's I've taken a bit of flack this week on Twitter from Osprey supporters who've all apologised and when I've explained myself. But as a Scarlet supporter, you don't want to see the Ospreys go. You want to see them there. You want to see them based in Swansea, and you want to have that sparring partner that's there constantly. Do you know what I mean? It gives you purpose. It gives you a constant thing to have a go at. Do you know what I mean? And if they were based in Ealing, would that rivalry, would that intensity be there? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know how it would work. I mean, it'd be a positive thing for Scarlets, Cardiff, and Dragons. In the grand scheme of things, but as a positive for Welsh rugby, I don't think it would be. Some of the things I'm hearing is that it's not going to be Ealing Trailfinders as we know it. I'm hearing that this Gooley, that is, their owner, Trailfinders are going to stay in the championship as they are, and he's registering a new team Ealing with the WRU to compete in the URC. That's something that I've heard in confidence from a couple of people. So, I really don't know what exactly is happening. I've been told like Y11 are the drivers of the whole thing, but they've just come out and said no. So unless it's fallen through at the last minute, I really don't know.
Yeah, and I think the problem with Y11 is they've got a bit of a reputation of, they approached Cardiff originally to merge with Ospreys. They approached Scarlets to merge with Ospreys. Who knows who else they've approached to merge with Ospreys, but they're certainly the ones that, if what we're being told is to be true, they're the ones that are going and saying, we'd like this to happen. And then somebody comes back with a negotiating point and says, actually, we'd like this to happen. And they go, right, okay, and they walk away from it. And I don't think it's helpful for Ospreys fans or Scarlets fans to be in this position where you can never really kind of trust what's coming out, because they haven't denied it. What they've said is that the talks, the reports about the reports about the talks are incorrect. They haven't said that the talks aren't going on. They've said that the reports about the talks are incorrect. So they could be, like you say, discussing so that the Ealing set up, the Trail Finders set up the London Trail Finders as a company, as a sports company. So whether London Trail Finders then become part of the URC with Ospreys, and so they're almost using a bit of semantics to try and throw a bit of smoke in front of. But I think supporters, and it, like you say, it affects all of us. Supporters are just a bit fed up with them playing roulette with Welsh rugby, and I think we've all had enough of it, to be honest. But there we go. And I doubt many Ospreys fans will be listening to this.
No, well,
in all honesty, so
I've been told every single Osprey fan, even the ones in the supporters clubs, are being kept in the dark completely. They're just basically being fed. You use your food and water. We'll see about that in a couple of weeks. Okay.
Yeah, and it's not fair on. Imagine if that was happening to us. Imagine if they were messing around with us, and instead of us sitting here talking about rugby, we were talking about whether some finance guy wanted to do this or that. Yeah, it's not. It's going to leave supporters with a sour taste in the mouth, whichever way round they go. Anyway, that's for Ospreys to sort out, and that's their business. We will be here next season, one way or another. So we'll move on from that. So seems like a fairly good point to have a listen to your chat with Alid, to be honest, because we'll move down it. There's very little in the way of community games. There are a couple to discuss, but there's some really interesting games last week, and we're at that point of the season now where the under 15s start to get a bit tasty. The under 16s start to get a little bit tasty as well. And they're playing towards the last game of the season, which will be Scarlets East versus Scarlets West. So there's a whole load of stuff going on at junior level. So let's have a little listen to your conversation with Alid from Tenby and Pembrokeshire under 15s.
Hello and welcome to this special segment of Westra is Bestra. I am Martyn, Big M, and today I'm joined by Alid Waters, a man who does basically everything in Pembrokeshire when it comes to rugby. So how are you, Alid?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, pal. I'm good, thank you, pal. You keeping well?
Yeah, I'm good. Nothing keeping me up at night, barring the baby. But less said about that, the better. Yeah. So I've already spoken with Lee once this season already, and you got your fingers in so many pies. We're surprised you got any fingers left. And so we'll touch on a couple of them now, and we'll start with Tenby. So, starting the beginning of the season, did you have, many expectations of what you expected the season to go like?
If I'm honest, this for me it was my first gig within senior rugby more than anything. So that was a big kind of learning curve from the start. I didn't know what to expect. I've done quite a lot of stuff, like you said. I've got so many fingers in so many different pies. I've done quite a lot under 18s rugby. But to be fair, I've enjoyed every moment. Like I started playing my rugby as a kid for Tenby, went right the way through from, I think it was under 9s, right the way through to the youth. Had a few first team games, as well as a few clubs in between. But no, for me to go back to my childhood club and to start my senior coaching career, should we say, with my childhood club, just makes my life easier, to be honest. I can't fault how the club, to be fair, since I came on the last podcast, how the club have taken me in, the players taken me in, the coaching staff, and to be fair, I'm enjoying every second of it.
Oh, it's good to hear. You've had a very up and down sort of season. Like you had a really good win over Kidwelly on the weekend, but you've won a few more than you've lost. But I think I was looking through all your results, and your biggest loss was by 7 points, and your only home loss is to top of the table Pontarddulais, who were undefeated. So you're not a million miles away from competing at the top end.
No, we've got. I think it goes to show the effort the boys and the rest of the staff, as well as coaching staff, as well as the committee, put into the club, and to what we try to offer. So it has been, some weeks have been frustrated. Don't get me wrong, you'll get some training sessions where you don't get the numbers you need to, but the commitment from most of the boys has been second to none. And then, like you said, massive win on the weekend. We went up to Kidwelly start of the season, 21-0 up. And then we lose the game, I think it was 28-27 or something like that. So, if I'm honest, we kind of owed them one. And to be fair to them, they were a great outfit coming down to us on the weekend. But it was, compared to the last game, I think it was 2 weeks ago, we went away to Loughor and we won by 50-odd points to 20-odd. It was that the same result on Saturday felt even more, because we had to go and some dark places to keep them out more than anything. But yeah, every game's been within 7, so we are kind of, you can say we're lucky, really, because we're still picking up that losing bonus point, because we've lost within the 7 points, which has been a massive help. And yeah, we want to compete to the top. Any team who says they don't want to compete to the top, I'm sure, is lying. And so far, so good, really.
Yeah. So you currently sit in 4th in the table. The top 3 again promoted. I know there's a couple of teams behind you with some games in hand, and they can leapfrog you. But are there any ambitions to go up this season? Are you really targeting that top 3 spot as, that's your minimum for success this year?
I think if you spoke to John, our head of rugby, he'll say, and we all say in the huddle after the game, we all know what we want. We all know we want to go up. We want to compete in Division 1. But then, like you said, I think we're so far. Well, I think Mumbles jumped us in the table because they beat Carmarthen Athletic on the weekend. So our next game a week Saturday is away to Mumbles. So hopefully we can kind of, go away, get a win from them, and then leapfrog them again. So yeah, I think we all want to go up. We've got everything we can kind of want within the ground, within the buy-in from everyone, really. But yeah, I think if you asked any player, any coaching staff in Div 2, they all want to get a taste of Division 1 rugby. So I think that's what we are kind of focusing on, really.
So we all have our fingers crossed and hope that we see Tenby as a Division 1 team next season then.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And if it doesn't happen, we have got such a great squad within Tenby. We've got some great, I'll call them old heads. I might get a bit of stick for that, but we've got some great boys who have been there, who have done it, and they'll want to keep pushing. So as long as we stick tight as a squad, and with some good youth boys coming forward now, I think some of them start turning 18 from this November. So hopefully we can start bringing that pathway in from our youth right the way through to the seniors, and then hopefully climb from there. Then.
That's good. Sounds like there's some really good things happening in Tenby. So now I'm going to have to start talking to you about the county, Pembrokeshire Schools 15s, and the start of the season, it was pretty much doom and gloom because it took you a while to pick up that first win. But, besides all that, talk me through the game on Friday night. What was it like?
Yeah, it's to be fair, it's been a hell of a ride so far, I'll be honest. So far, like with me being in Tenby, we've had the links of playing in Tenby. So we kind of took, because we had the game on the Saturday and not knowing what the weather forecast would have been, when I booked the ground, we thought, we'll change the venue, we'll go to Pembroke. New floodlights, not a bad field, in fairness. I do enjoy going down there. And then you got that, I think every team will agree with me, that bottom, if you're looking down the park from the clubhouse, that bottom left-hand side.
If you're looking down the park from the clubhouse,
that bottom left-hand
side, that corner is horrendous.
So I think we arrived and
face it all again.
We arrived and it was just kind of right. We know what we want to do. We've got to do a job over the veil to make sure we guarantee our semi-final spot. The boys knew about that, but yeah. So yeah, thinking back now, it kind of gives me a bit of a chill, even though it's we have five. We scored early. We're through. One of the boys from Ysgol Brogwain, he scored in the corner, and we thought, here we go now. But then, to be fair to the Vale, they kind of turned it on from the start. Then they just went, they destroyed our contact area. They were physical in their carries, and their defensive line was just second to none. After we scored, then they kicked it. It was a skill that I'd love to be able to coach. But they got into our 22, the 10 crossfield kicked in. It was something like you see in TV. Just as the ball was about to go over the dead ball line, they touch it down. And to be fair to them, it's a hell of a try. But no, to be fair to our boys, the bomb squad come on off the bench, and the impact they brought was phenomenal. We put so much pressure in that last, say, 20 minutes. Our line sniped, and I think that kind of gained our momentum. And then our fullback crossed in the corner before what was the score? I think it brought that to 15-10 because we missed the conversion. And then it was within the last minute or so, we were camped on their try line, penalty advantage. And I was on one of our boys went off injured. So I was on the sideline with him, making sure he was fine. But we were just still camped on their try line. Then all of a sudden, our replacement mate, Callum White, just came and absolutely washed them. Yeah. You couldn't have asked for more. So we crossed the line and then our 10 then converted to get the win on the whistle. So, yeah, as you can probably tell, it was such a roller coaster. It was even hard getting it out from what we expected from the game, really.
I mean, it's just amazing feeling when you win with basically the last kick or the last touch of the game. The emotions just run through the roof. So we're looking at now, this set the first part of the season, not Carmarthenshire, but Scarlets based. You had Carmarthen Schools, Ceredigion, MMAD, and Llechley. Things didn't go exactly to plan, but there, and you ended up being drawn into the bowl side of the draw then for the second part, and you've just picked up from there and you haven't looked back. I mean,
no.
What 3 wins and a loss or a draw, was it?
Yeah. So when we split it off into the Scarlets kind of we'll call it the conference side of the league or the competition. We played Ceredigion at home in Tenby again. And to be fair to the boys, they were very fresh. They were pretty much just coming into the environment. So we were giving them so much information to kind of learn, take on. And I can't remember what the score was, but we had I think it was near enough towards the last minute of the game. We had a chance to kick for 3 and would have won the game by a point. But we give the boys full responsibility. If they back themselves on the field, we can't take anything away from them. They then tapping past, and we knocked it on, lost the game by 2 points or whatever it was. So we were under the cosh there, but then it was a great learning experience. Then we went to, I think it was Munster then after. They're a phenomenal outfit. I think we spoke on the last podcast, and everything they've got, everything they do is just phenomenal. Like as a district, they'd be our role model more than anything. They got a phenomenal setup. So we lost. I can't remember the score of that, and we lost that one. Then we went up to Tenby to play Llanelli, which is always a tough battle against them. But again, we only lost that within the 3 points. So I think we lost that 10-7 with the last penalty. It was 7-7, and within the last couple of minutes, they slotted a penalty kick. So, and then we played Carmarthenshire. We only lost to them within the 7 points. So we are, like, within the Scarlets teams, we are within each other. We all are, like, kind of top and tailing. But it was just, I think, I don't want to say the word inexperience, but I think it's just the freshness to the environment on, like, it's a step up from school, it's a step up from club, and how fast the game is. But to be fair, going into the bowl, I suppose, has kind of worked wonders for us, because we hosted RGC South at home again in Tenby, and our boys were phenomenal. We won that by 40-odd points to, I can't remember what the score was for that one, to be fair. And then we went away to the Knoll, which the boys knew that was a historic place to go. You couldn't ask for any better venues, like a really like tight old school changing room, tough conditions, tough team, and to get a 14-5 win up there was massive for us. Then the boys went across to Aberavon School, so we played in the Talbot Athletic Ground, where our forwards coach Rhys Fawcett plays his Premiership rugby for us for Aberavon. So, which we got a draw in that one, which brought us to 10-10. 10-10 draw for that one, and then we just played on the week Friday just gone. So we've topped the league now. So I think we play Cardiff A in the semis.
Well, that should be a big showdown, coming up against. I know they're called Cardiff A, but they mix a lot of those boys, and they're not. They are not just there for the experience; they're there to win. So it's going to be a big challenge for you guys. Like I know you spoke, they grow them quite big. The further east you tend to go, the moment you sort of hit Bridgend, Rhondda, the size just goes out the window. Like literally, they can't fit in the room. And so it's not going to be easy, but one more win and we'll be seeing you on TV and on finals day. And I think we're all hopeful that you're not the only ones there. I mean, I think Carmarthen have got a chance in the plate, and if a few results go their way, I think Mynydd Mawr might have a chance of squeezing through to the knockouts as well. So I, as a region, Scarlets are doing pretty well, and it's good to see it. These Pembrokeshire boys, doing well, winning some games, getting their confidence up. When you spoke, Willie, you said that this season you started with over 100 boys in one of your first ID sessions, and you've managed to narrow that down to 35, I think you said, which you admitted is quite a small squad. Has it stayed like that, or have you expanded a little bit?
We have expanded. So I think we're roughly at the verge of 41. So we've brought in 6 boys. So we started this initiative down, with the WIU, it's called Rugby 2020, and it's pretty much to give boys in the same school year exposure to rugby. So it's like kind of a cross-field game. And we are very keen on going out into the community at the same time. So, for example, there's a Pembrokeshire Cup semi-final under 15s this week, so I'm going to go along to that myself. And we picked up a few boys, so like say Lewis Davis, but unfortunately he got injured. He's broken his tib and fib now, but he got brought into the squad. He was playing exceptionally well for his school and for his club. And then as well as that, we've we're already thinking of next season, so we've got some boys in already who are from the year below. So I'm looking at like you kind of your main partnership. So we're looking at the hooker. We've got a hooker or 2 hookers have come in from the year below. I've got a 10, a centre, and I've got a scrum half as well. I think it was coming a year below just to kind of learn the basics. And I think that's why we've done so well this year, because I've done exactly the same last year. So I brought so many in from the year below just to kind of give them that exposure. I know that they're kind of up there with some of the best in their age group, and then just to give them that exposure, a bit of game time, and then hopefully it reaps the rewards, which so far it has really.
So you kind of build your core, your spine, for next season already. You're already bringing them boys in. Your preparation it's already underway, and you've still got a few games left. Yeah. So the next step of these boys now will be Scarlet 16s West. Yeah. Do they come to you, or do you nominate the boys going forward? How is that working with you guys?
We'll sit together as a coaching squad and look through every name we've got on a sheet with a fine-tooth comb, and we'll kind of nominate the names forward then. So when we nominate and send the letters out, they will go to Scarlet's trials, and then the Scarlets will have them for about a 4 or 5 week block before they then cut their squad to who they're happy with. But yeah, so we're pretty confident that we're going to send a fair few boys this year, just off the cuff of thinking of it really. But yeah, they'll pretty much have 4 sessions, and then the Scarlets then that's down to them to cut their own squad. So yeah, it'll be pretty. It's a brutal process. What I said to Lee. It's not the end of the pathway for them, if that makes sense. If they don't make it into the Scarlets West, there's so many options to come in, whether it's coming here to the college to then participate in the under-18s Welsh Colleges League. So there's so many swings and roundabouts to get back into the pathway. So it's never going to be, the door's never shut if they don't make the first cut, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's always good to know that, once you're not in, that's not the end of, any potential, because, I think everybody knows that people develop, their skills as a rugby player on different levels, the same as we physically mature differently. So, you got some, I can remember being in school in year 7 and one of the boys was already 6'1". I mean, he didn't grow taller than 6'1", but, you come in year 7 and you got someone that big, you're like, oh, Christ, I don't fancy tackling you, like.
Yeah, I agree. There is so you'll get that, but then you'll also get the ones that are the late developers, and I've seen it in the past as well. You see boys that kind of don't come into the Dual Shield pathway, but then they come to me in college, and then they push on from there really. So yeah. So
I've got to bring this up just because it is everywhere in Welsh rugby at the minute. There's a lot of negativity around the WRU and the issues going on with players and contracts. And obviously, I would imagine 90, if not 100% of your squad dream of being professional rugby players. So as what's going on in the news, as it come into training, did the boys have any views on it, or are they just completely oblivious to it?
At the moment, they're completely oblivious to it, really, because we're at that 15-year-old, 14-year-old age bracket, especially within the district. We don't have anything. They can't. I suppose they can't sign a contract till they're 18 anyway. So hopefully, by the time, I have nothing to do with that, say avenue of work. But hopefully, by the time that these boys we're producing now and they get on the pathway, that hopefully that there will be a sustainable future from. But yeah, for us, I think we don't really think about stuff like that. If I'm totally honest with you, it's just kind of we just set up day by day. Just all we're focused on more than anything is our semi-final game.
Well, I think that's everything I've got my little list to talk to you about. So, I mean, it's been great having you back. And if you make that final, which we're all hoping for, I'm sure we can welcome back a championship-winning coach onto the pod. So, yeah, once again, thanks for coming on, Al, and all the best in the future, and good luck against Cardiff A.
No worries, all. Thank you for having me anytime. Thank you.
So he comes across really well, doesn't he? How did you find your chat with him?
It was really informative. I found it was really good, especially considering you spoke to him at the start of the season to see how things have changed. Like he said that he was going to start with a small squad. He doesn't know what was going to happen, and to know that they've expanded and that they'd already started preparation for next season already by bringing in younger boys. It's really good to know the setup is working and to know that they're going to have a good setup really for years to come.
Yeah, and the thing I like about Alid is he's young. He's quite. I think he still could be playing. I think he may still be playing, but he certainly, in terms of coaches, he's a really young coach. So he's still got a connection with the game. He understands what's going on with the game, and when he's talking to the players, particularly the younger players, you get that feel from it. There's none of the, like, if I was talking to a player now, I'd be relating it back to 20 odd years ago, whereas he was like, last week, this is what happened in a game I was playing in last week, sort of thing. So I think players are really responding to him. I hope that it spreads to the college. I hope that Pembrokeshire College next season can start to rebuild and start to go forward. So I'm hoping that comes through next year, but fingers crossed. So when is the semi-final game now, isn't it? Under 15 semi-final is when?
We haven't had a confirmed date yet, just because there's the bowl is more or less sorted. I think there's one fixture in the group where it doesn't affect the teams that are going through. But I know there's still some more games in the plate. We'll mention our side of that a bit later on. So I think they're waiting for the completion of them, which will be this week, and then we should get the announcements in the following fortnight, really, and whether or not there's going to be home advantage properly, or if they're going to be neutral venues.
Yeah, always an iffy one. Always an iffy. It's weird remembering back to my boy playing in it. And my boy was playing in it when literally when they got to this part of the season and they were in that final game, and that final game got called off because of the weather. It was meant to be played at Port Talbot. It got called off because of the weather, but all of the lockdown stuff was just starting and there were rumours about this. So it was meant to be played on the Friday night, and it was horrendous on the Friday night. And everyone was going, you could see it was on the horizon. And it was like, well, let's play it Sunday. Let's play it Sunday morning. Play it Sunday afternoon. Let's play it Monday, And they couldn't get a pitch and they couldn't get players there. And then by the following Friday, we were in lockdown. So the whole thing just stopped. So they never got to the end of the competition that year. So it's, strange memories sitting there now going like, it's cheering someone on to go on in the cup and show what you can do, and then thinking the team that we had a couple of years ago was actually really, really good as well. And it's a shame that those boys didn't have the same kind of end to the season. So talk me through what we have got now for the juniors for the rest, because this is where you get really good now. So who's playing who, and when are they playing, and what's it for?
Okay, well, if we're talking the Dewar Shield sides, we as the Scarlets have got two teams left to play their final matches. We've got Llanelli who are playing away to Merthyr, and realistically, Llanelli have got to win that game. Merthyr are undefeated, I will mention that. And they need to hope that another result goes their way, to even stand a chance of getting through to their semi-finals. But on the other side, we've got Carmarthen, who are at home to Swansea Valley in a winner-takes-all clash in their side of the plate. They've both already qualified for the knockouts. This is, who is getting top seed. So, it's going to be a very interesting game, that one. And they're both scheduled for this Friday, 10th of March.
So who do they play against then? Is it East and West? So if Pembrokeshire win this one, do they play somebody from Cardiff?
Pembrokeshire will be playing Cardiff A. And I'm going to have to dig into my files by here to find out what exactly.
This is proper Stato stuff now, Mark. This is next level Stato stuff. This
is me using someone else's database to really find things out and claiming it's my own. That's the sort of sado I am at the minute. But the way it's looking, it's going to be, come on, they win. They probably at home to Cutton Valley. They lose, they're probably travelling to Merthyr, but this is all, dependent on the results from this Friday. And, if we somehow get a miracle and Llanelli get through and Carmarthen finish top, then we could be seeing a Carmarthen Llanelli semi-final. It's highly unlikely, but it's still probable.
And knowing the WIU, that'll probably be played on a neutral ground in Bridgend. So...
in Bridgend, it'll be at Monmouth, won't it?
You have to be in Gloucester. But, yeah. Okay, so we've got plenty to look forward to there. So tonight this should have been the under-16s East and West games, shouldn't they? So who should they have been playing this evening?
Who should they have been playing?
Now
I'm going into my database to find this. Scarlets West should have been at home to Ospreys West, and Scarlets East should have been in Ystrad Mynach to face Dragons Red. But we've had some beautiful weather. Unfortunately, it's not rugby weather, and those games have been cold.
What an absolute load of rubbish! Not right. There was a bit of snow on the ground this morning. It is absolutely clear as a bell in Pembrokeshire this evening, and it was always going to be. I mean,
would you like to play on a Ystrad Mynach surface that's been snowed on constantly?
Ystrad Mynach is a bloody freezer at the best of times, but certainly Haywood Lane, Tenby, yeah. I played a cup final once in Narberth, and it had been cancelled. It had been postponed a couple of times, and they said if we can't play it tonight, that's it. There's no other option to play it. So we played it, and it was frozen solid. The pitch was absolutely frozen solid, and everybody watching was frozen, and the players were frozen. And this is how painful it was. I remember it. It must have been under 15s, under 16s, or whatever. I broke through from the 22. We had a scrum on the 22. I went straight through the outside half, picked up the fullback, took him over with me and a couple of wingers, and left them for dead. And I had a 5-meter run for the line, and then I dived for the line, and the pitch was frozen solid. And I shredded basically everything from my knees to the bottom of my shorts. Absolutely, because it was so cold, didn't feel a thing. There was nothing. There was no feeling there. And then having a shower after, started warming up. And then in the shower, my legs started bleeding. So there was a little bit of snow on the ground. Come on.
I mean, I think the worst I've had is I played in a few Boxing Day charity matches, with boys who just turn up at the rugby club for a drink, and I think it was one, and it must have been snowing for about a week. It was Pennygraig RFC, and if you've ever been there, you'll know how open it is, so you'll know how cold it can get. And it was playing on concrete. It was so much fun, hurting each other, just for a laugh. But I can't remember even holding the ball or tackling someone with the ball, but I tackled about 30 people that day.
Kids today, we're making them soft. Anyway, so that's 15s and 16s. Who else have we got to talk about in a community game or junior game, mate?
Well, we've got the results from last week's under-18s, the youth, cup, plate and bowl that we spoke about, and unfortunately we had 3 losses, but we've had 1 win. Narberth lost away to Gosaina 1917. Crymych away to Bargoed lost 28-19, and Whitland lost away to Mumbles 26-19. But the one team to win in the bowl away to Dochlechai, so all the way up in North Wales, was tiny little Langham. So basically the smallest rugby club in Wales, that's what I'm going to call them. They picked their youth team up, not just for the season, but they've taken them on a cup run. They then took them all the way up to North Wales, and they've come away with a win. They're now going into the semis, and they'll be facing one of Brinkhoch, Caerphilly, or Mumbles. So it's just amazing, to be part of that Langham youth setup. Just to know what they've done, just to have a youth side is amazing. But to be able to go on a sort of run like this, and then to take the boys to North Wales, it's not cheap. We're talking under 18, so we are talking the parents are subsidising all of this. So, a lot of credit has to go to them for this. I'd love to be, an under 18 and in our setup right now, just to feel what it's like. It must be amazing.
And what I hope happens is those boys stay with Langham after under 18s, because like I said before, the Langham youth team is basically a mash of quite a few other players from other teams that have kind of, as other teams have folded, and they've been the last one standing, sort of a thing. So, I hope they kind of repay the club and the people that have supported them, at least for a couple of seasons, by staying with them until they make it into the senior team, rather than going back to the club that they came from. Just, it's not going to kill you. It'll be a massive boost for Langham to have some of those youth boys come through into the senior team, and it'll just have a really good kind of rollerball effect then for the next couple of seasons. So, fair play to him. There's a young player of mine who's in there that deserves a big shout out, and that's Ian Gray, who the guy is one of the most talented players that I think I've seen. It's just natural ability, strong runner, aggressive, really, really aggressive, stroppy as hell, doesn't like being told that he's wrong ever. But the passion that the guy's got for the game is absolutely immense. And then he went through a really serious illness when he was 13, 14 maybe, something like that. And he's come out the other end of it now. So he's still got the condition, and anyone that knows him will know what it is and what have you. But for him to still be on the pitch and still playing, it is an absolute credit to him, because the guy's a good. If he'd have stayed fit, he would be. We'd be talking about him at Scarlet's 18s without a shadow of a doubt. So he was that level of player. So the fact that he's even back on a pitch now is, an absolute credit to him. So big shout out to Ian and all the other boys there. But he's the one I always look for when Langham are playing. So, and he will stay with Langham. He's a Langham boy, so he only came to Pembroke to play for me. So he'll go back to Langham now, and he will stay in Langham. So yeah. Anyway, who's next?
Okay, I think we're on to proper seniors now. And have we done results for this week already, or are we going to run through them?
I can't even remember who was playing last week, because there were teams that were popping up on Friday going, we got a game tomorrow, and I didn't know if it was a rearranged game or if it was a friendly or whatever. So who did we have last week?
Well, it was a full round of fixtures last week.
I was a week
in
before.
the
Week before, I'm thinking of. Yeah. Sorry. It's been a long season, mate. Good, yeah.
It has. These fall weeks are, fallow weeks are not very good for us.
No.
So we'll start at the top as we always do. Championship Narberth at home to Neath. Neither of us expected, Narberth to come away with anything. And, they put up a good fight, 29-15 losses, very respectable against Neath.
Mm.
So, there's nothing wrong with that sort of result, especially, considering that they are, them and Pontypool are by and large miles above everybody else. They're more or less fully funded semi-professional teams.
And I'm sure at one point Narberth were either right in it or they were a couple of points behind, and Neath were getting a little bit kind of scared. They were getting a little bit nervous as to what was happening, but I was trying to see if I can find it. No, I can't find it on there. They definitely run about the halfway mark. Narberth were more than in that game, so there's a lot of positives there to take forward. A lot of positives.
And another positive for Narberth, they don't have a week off, so they're back in action this week. A rearranged fixture. They're travelling to Ystrad Rhondda to play down there, and that's going to be a really interesting game because Ystrad have really picked up this season. Since that. I think it was the opening round that game was. And, Narberth won 16-3, fairly comfortable win. But, Ystrad are now above them in the table. They've got more wins than them. So it's going to be really interesting to see, where this match goes. I'm going to back Narberth all the way because that's what you got to do. But it is going to be a brilliant match to be involved in because I think these two teams at this point in the season are neck and neck. They are so close to each other.
And it's good to have that kind of game at this point of the season. I've never liked basement battles, and I don't like being mid-table and not having anything to fight for, sort of a thing. So being kind of mid-table but within touching distance, there is something to fight for. These are the games that you actually want to play in at this point of the season. So yeah, that's a Narberth win for me as well, mate. So.
That's Championship Narberth sorted. So we're down into the Division 1 West. Like I said, full round of fixtures. So, Aberystwyth were at home to Wellinval. And, they've taken a bit of a thumping here. Wellinval won 30 points to 8. That was quite a shock for me. I thought it would have been a lot closer. Crymych won 12 points to 10 at home to Gowerton. Another tight game at the top end of the table for Crymych, keeping their undefeated run going, which is brilliant for them. Pembroke travelled to Pencloud, and, they took a bit of a thumping themselves, 55 points to 25. Pembroke just really can't catch a break, at the minute. And the last game that was played, Whitland at home to Hendy, and, Whitland have, picked up another win, which is always good for them, 34 points to 12.
And like you say, Pembroke, just no matter what they do at the minute, is it's just a hammering and a half every week, and it's really just disheartening for the boys. Really, really disheartening. But there we go.
There's only one game in One West that we are concerned with this week, and it is a Thursday night game. So that's interesting enough in itself. Whitland are travelling to Gowerton, and I can't see anything other than a Gowerton win.
Yeah, I mean, you would have thought so, particularly up there, boys leaving after work. Yeah, and I think even on a Saturday with the best will in the world, that's still a Gowerton win and a comfortable one. So, yeah.
Okay, we're now dropping into 2 West, and Nancaredig, 20 points to 0 winners over Fishguard. I actually backed Fishguard to go and do one, so to be pointless, it kind of shames me a bit. So I'm a little bit upset at that. Milford travelled to Pontarddulais, 48-17 win for Pontarddulais. It was always going to be that way. And the big game, we've already heard about it in my conversation with Aled, is Tenby's 23 points to 17 win over Kidwelly. And, brilliant game, massive advert for the community game, and it's just another one of those, niggling games where, whoever loses is going to lose a bit of a run in on the promotion spots. And, Tenby have come out of it on top this time. So, just brilliant for the Pembrokeshire side of things.
Yeah, and didn't they win? As I remember, the game earlier in the season was a really close one as well, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a 1-point game in Kidwelly early in the season.
Yeah, so that puts Tenby within touching distance of they're literally 1 point away from promotion, but Tenby played all of their games. They got 40. That's why I can't believe that the game on their pitch tonight was called off, because their pitch just doesn't suffer at all. So they played 14 games, Kidwelly 10. So Kidwelly have got 4 games in hand on them, and there's only 6 points difference. I know it's good to get, that win against them, but yeah, it really is fingers crossed now between now and the end of the season for Tenby. Everything else needs to go their way, sort of a thing. So
yeah, and the only game again that we're concerned with in 2 West this week is Fishguard at home to Mumbles, and earlier fixture in the season, Fishguard won 34-12 down in Mumbles. So I'm expecting pretty much the same, and a good Fishguard win.
Yeah, I think it's hard, isn't it? It's hard. I think Fishguard are struggling at the minute in terms of keeping the squad together and keeping players fit and what have you. But yeah, let's go for a Fishguard win, just cause why not?
You can't just stay positive for more than 30 seconds, I mean, oh.
No, I just say it's one of those things that we knew Fishguard were going to struggle with squad size through the season, and as soon as they start picking up a couple of injuries, it really hammers them. So fingers crossed they can keep enough players fit for the rest of the season, and they will have a good run in. They will have a good run in because they got some decent players. They just got to keep them fit. That's all.
Now our final bit of the community game, Division 3 West A. Cardigan at home to Aberaeron. Aberaeron run out 18-15 winners, so really close game. Haverfordwest 32-7 over Neyland. Pretty much expected, but it's still a solid win. Lampeter carrying on their impressive form with a 20-0 victory over Pembroke Dock. And our 2 favourite teams. I haven't seen what colours they played in, but St David's ran out 25-14 points winners over Langham in Langham. And the last game that was played in this division was St Clair's at home to Tregaron, and it was 95-0. So that must have been a hard game for both teams in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I know it looks great on paper and all of that kind of stuff, but does anyone really benefit from that? Did St Clair's benefit from putting 95 points on anyone? Did they learn anything at all in the second half? No.
I mean, if it was a youth game or a little bit younger, you'd be like, okay, let's ask the players, do they really want to continue playing? But at this level, you seniors, I know you want to play the game, but as soon as that gets past sort of 50, 60 points and you still got half hour left, surely you're like, okay, let's just knock it on the head. Neither of us want to carry this on.
Yeah.
And
well, fair play. St Clair's stuck at it. They put 95 points on, so I'm betting they'd be a bit annoyed actually that they didn't make 3 figures. So
that's the only thing to take out from that game.
Yeah.
St Clair's didn't get their 100. They missed their century. How dare they?
Well, I'll be honest. I've been in a game where, I was young and I was quite aggressive as a player, and we were 45 points up at halftime, and I was absolutely. There was a couple of the older boys in the side that were like, all right, we'll make some early substitutions, and I was like, nah, we're putting a ton on them, end of, and and yeah, it's something that lives in the memory that of what we did and how we did it. But it's I'm not really sure. Did I benefit as a player for doing that? I know the opposition. To be fair, the opposition that we were playing against, when we got to 95 points, because we won 102 points is what we ended up with. When we got to 95, they spent 5 minutes camped on our line. So there was a bit of bite to them, but we intercepted and we ran away, and then we put it over the line, and that was the end of the game. So, it is one of those games I'm still not sure that anybody benefits from, but you've got to do it. That's the way it is. So,
I've listened to all your stories, and I find it increasingly concerning. You're only talking about the happy ones when you were on the winning side.
That happened a lot. That's why.
Yeah, I think you're substituting yourself for someone else on a different team.
That's why I haven't got many Tenby stories. You're going to regret that. We got stuffed when I was at Tenby, but there we go. Anyway, next.
Only one game to talk about in 3 West Day this week, and it's Aberaeron at home to St David's. I gotta say, an Aberaeron win. I hope St David's, do pull a number on them, but I just can't see it happening.
Well, that's been played on Friday night, isn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, would you want to travel up to Aberaeron at 7:30 on a Friday night? That's a tough one. I'd rather play it on a Sunday, wouldn't you? Rather Friday night or Sunday.
It depends what my plans on the Saturday were. If I'm going back to my playing days, I would be having a few bevies on a Saturday.
Yeah, so, I suppose. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, that's a tough one for St David's. So I'll go Aberaeron on that one as well. Yeah.
And that is it, my friend. We have completed Big M's fixture schedule for the week.
Cool. Fantastic. Right. And I don't think we got anything else to discuss. Oh, yeah, we've got the Wales game. Oh, knickers. Oh, I thought we were going to get away with that then. I could have just finished it there, mate, and we could have been done. No, we could have gone and had a cup of tea. Thoughts on the Wales game quickly then?
Thumping. No, not thumping. I can see another loss coming away. I'm really not sure what sort of side he's going to put out now. I think he's going to persist with Hawkins and Grady in the centre, which it's not my personal opinion, but obviously I'm not the person in the hot seat. So we'll just see how that goes. I think it's going to be a very open attacking game from Italy. I think we're going to kick a lot of ball yet again and get absolutely nowhere without kick chase. So, it's going to be drab from us, but exciting from Italy. And I'm going to back Italy to go for it.
Yeah, I'm thinking we're probably likely to play a very defensive game. It's going to be defence orientated. Like you say, it'll be kick them to the corners, try and move them around, try and tire them out, and just defend like hell. But I don't think that game works anymore. People have worked that game out, and they've, you just run 2 deep pullbacks and you run the outside of a blitz defence. And there's no real way of stopping that. If you're running a blitz defence, you have to then blitz and drift in order to get outside. You just, either I drift or I blitz. So yeah, I think if we are going to play that kicking game, which I'm the same as you, that's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting tight, big, heavy runners. I wouldn't be surprised to see George North come back in on the wing. I really wouldn't. If he puts Zamet to full back and puts North on the wing just so we can use him as an extra crash ball off 10, I think it's going to be that kind of game. Just batter, and then Italy will turn the ball over and run it back, and we'll end up cheering for Italy because they're playing the more exciting rugby. welcome to
Wales.
Wales.
Is what it is,
people.
sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, there was some positive news to come out of the WRU this week. I mean, they've announced 25 full-time professional contracts for the women ongoing for the next couple of years. So, I mean, that's a positive, I suppose.
Yeah, and we've got Women's Six Nations to come after this. They've announced a squad for the Women's Six Nations. And I think a lot of people are like me over the last couple of seasons. Like, look, I'll kind of watch it. I watch the highlights, then I watched a couple of games. I'm still not necessarily 100% with who's who and what their abilities and all of that kind of stuff are. So yeah, it's going to be.
I think the main issue with that is we haven't got a proper, domestic scene for these international players in Wales. They're all playing in England, and I know we got a couple games on TV, but it's just not enough. I think we need to get one side to start. I'm not even saying full-time professionals to start or even semi-professional, just to get a team over into the Premier 15s and to build from there. Just so, even if it's on S4C every other week, just so people can watch on a regular basis and get a regular fan base.
Yeah, and I think that's what we'll try and use the Women's Six Nations this year to expand our knowledge of the women's game, to help others expand their knowledge, and hopefully, like you say, we can see more girls playing back in Wales in more of a professional team-based sort of activity in Wales. I think that the problem they have now is if you put a women's game in Wales and you only run 2 professional women's teams in Wales, who are they aligned to with the men's side of the game? And it throws up too many issues from that sort of a thing. And it shouldn't, but I think that's what it is. I would not be surprised.
I 100% agree is going to be issues there, but I think the women's game should just stand on its own. It doesn't have to carry over all these issues from the men's game. It doesn't have to have all this, pettiness that we've experienced for years and years. It can be a really positive thing. And for Lee, he can see maybe a future player on my shoulder right now.
Absolutely. Looks like a winger to me.
Yeah, either a winger or a scrum half. She's a very slight girl considering who her father is.
Is she chopsy though? Has she got a bit of chops
yes.
about it?
Yes, she's got a massive mouth on her.
Scrum half then. That's where the chops she wants to go. Scrum half every time. Mart, I think we're done, my friend. I think we've covered all the bases this week. I can't see us having anything positive to talk about for next week, but fingers crossed. Who knows? We'll talk about the Wales-Italy game and maybe look forward to brighter days ahead.
Oh yes, definitely. Hey, we may get a chance to watch some of the Saracens and Scarlets, so there might be a lot of positives to talk about with it.
Yeah, if we actually see it on telly anyway. It should be on the recast thing. That was the whole point of it at the start of the season, but I've not seen anything advertised on it at all. But we shall, as soon as we know, we'll put something on our social media pages and let everyone know. And we're done, mate. We're done.
We're done. Another week over.
Another week.
So, it's like I said, broke my interview cherry. And now I've got a side commentator, just mumbling. She's half asleep. It's brilliant. No. It's 9 o'clock at night, and I got my 5-year-old trying to, jump into bed for me. Okay, 1 second. Yeah, so that we've wrapped up everything. We've covered all our bases. So once again, it was great talking with you, mate, and I look forward to doing it again next week.
All right, mate. I shall speak to you then. All the best, mate. Ta-da.
All the best. You too. Trabant.
Ta-da, mate. You have been listening to the Westerer is Besterer podcast from the Scarlet Supporters Pems team. You can follow us on Twitter on Scarlet Pems. Find us on Facebook with Scarlet Supporters Pembrokeshire, or email us on scarletspems@gmail.com. And remember, West is best, but Westerer is Besterer. Cheers.
Sports Social Podcast Network.